What's the number one thing that leaders can do to boost student engagement? It's giving teachers feedback while the learning is happening. Not after the bell, not in next week's meeting, in the moment. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to give real-time feedback that sticks using a simple cycle called See It, Name It, Do It. Hi, friend. Are you ready to move into a leadership position? Do you have interests and ambitions that you want to pursue, but feel like you don't know how to take that next step? Maybe you want to start your own coaching or consulting agency. I'm Mel, and I help educators define their career path through correct mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for your career transition. I will show you how to level up your leadership skills, share your expertise in a new way, create impact on a larger scale, and put your leadership in motion. As an educator for over 20 years, I started to feel underused and like I had more to give. I knew when the time had come for me to leave the classroom and affect change on a larger level. Now, I'm ready to help you determine where your talents and skills mesh with your passions and interests. Put your leadership in motion and move into that next phase of your educational career journey. Let me help you define your career path by having the right mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for that next leadership position. So power up and put your leadership in motion. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Mel, and this is episode 2 of the Engagement in Action series, where we take the guesswork out of student engagement and classroom management and build leaders' capacities to coach for action. In this episode, I'm going to be zooming in on real-time coaching using the classic See It, Name It, Do It framework from Get Better Faster. This one shift can completely change the way that you approach walkthroughs, your feedback, and growth coaching because it's simple, it's intentional, and it works. I use it, and I'm teaching my principal how to use it as well. Why does real-time feedback matter more than a post-conference note that you might leave? Well, first, teachers grow faster when the feedback is immediate and it's something that's actionable. Real-time coaching, it increases clarity, it reduces overwhelm, and it builds trust with your teachers. And according to Get Better Faster, which you know I use, the most impactful feedback happens as close to the moment as possible. Even if it's just 30 seconds of naming that next move, that high impact action that your teachers can take, as long as it's a bite-sized action step. You really want to shift your own mindset as a leader. And you want to go from, I'll bring this up in next week's coaching meeting to let's try this right now while I'm in here and you can implement it immediately before I leave. And then I can come in again next week and look for the exact same thing and see how wonderfully you've mastered it. And this is that see it part. You're going to observe what matters the most. There's no need to try to catch every single thing. Look for that highest leverage teacher move that impacts student engagement. Use a focused engagement lens, guys. What are the students doing? Not just what is the teacher doing. Think about teacher-centered versus student-centered. Think about teacher actions versus student actions. I just did some PD at another school this past Friday, and that is one of the things that I really worked on with them is what is your teacher action versus your student's action? So what action are you taking as a teacher, and how is it going to impact your students? What action are they going to take because of it? Or what outcome is going to happen because of the action that you've taken? And as a principal, you're going to want to watch for those core skills, things like checking for understanding, transition efficiency, behavior expectations, economy of language, all of those teacher actions that impact student outcomes. Remember, I've told you before that when you go into a classroom, you're looking for one high impact action. So when you go in right now, you're looking for something that's engagement. Who's doing all the talking? If you're high school, you know who it is, because teachers in high school tend to be lecturers rather than have a group of kids in cooperative learning situations. And that's one of the things I worked on with the high school at that school that I worked with recently. That's truly that teacher-centered versus student-centered. You want the students doing the work. You want them thinking. You want them talking and discussing and building off of each other. And then you move into the name it portion, where you give that clear, simple, actionable feedback. When you're giving that actionable feedback, you're going to want to look for a natural break, or you're going to want to clue your teachers into the fact that you have something you want to share with them so that they can send their students either into a turn and talk or give them some kind of task where they're actually doing some cooperative learning while you can give a real quick 30-second-ish piece of feedback. And then when you are ready, find a quick affirmation of something that they did well, and then give them that action step. You're going to state what you observed in one or two very short sentences. You don't want to have a whole conversation with the teacher and disrupt the learning for a very long period of time. Something like, students in the back didn't respond during cold call. And then you're going to give them you're going to name it, one specific change to try. Let's try tracking the speaker by pointing and pausing for 3 seconds before calling on someone. You want to keep it brief. You want to keep it tight. Don't diagnose every single thing that's happening in the room. We do that. We tend to nitpick. I've been terrible about that. I've gotten much better because I keep my little coaching guide with me and I take it into the classroom. So I have all of the information right in front of me. And then I can look for that just right move. Try scripting your feedback in advance using a structure like I noticed blah, 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 or try blah, 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 which then moves you right into the do it part, which is the practice and the follow-up. This is where you model the move or have the teacher rehearse it right there if time allows, and it's a good setup. Especially for things like call and response or tracking the speaker. Those are super quick. You can tell your teacher right then and there, and they can practice it immediately. And then remember, whatever real-time feedback that you give them, that's what you're going to look for next week when you do a follow-up. And once your teacher masters that action step, then you move on to the next high leverage action step. And then you just keep that cycle going till you have some fantastic superstar teachers all throughout your building. So here's your action step, your real-time feedback. I want you to walk into one classroom either today or Monday and give one piece of real-time feedback using the see it, name it, do it structure. Even if it's just a 2-minute hallway conversation afterwards because you weren't able to say anything during the actual lesson. And I'm not going to lie, it's kind of uncomfortable the first couple of times you do it. But once you do it, it gets so much easier. And then it just becomes second nature, and you can figure out a really good time to break into the lesson and give that real-time feedback where it's not distracting and it doesn't feel uncomfortable anymore. And remember, if you lead with affirmation, then your teachers, they're a little more open to that real-time feedback. That's a growth area. In part 3 of our series, I'm going to talk about how to build that teacher mastery through modeling and rehearsal. Because sometimes saying it isn't enough. You've got to help your teachers practice the move before they use it in live instruction, especially certain types of feedback. Particularly when you get into the rigor part of it, it becomes a little harder to do real-time feedback and then them do the action step right there in front of you because they've already done something and you're giving them that information so they can see it, but they may not necessarily in that moment be able to do it again just because of the lesson setup itself. I'll talk more about that next time and go into greater detail so you understand what I'm getting at. So here's the recap or your key takeaways from today. Real-time feedback builds faster growth, guys. Also, observe for engagement, not just instruction. Sometimes we tend to focus on the instruction completely and not the engagement end of things. Also, use the feedback formula. See it, name it, do it. And practice matters more than telling. Try not to leave without your teacher actually practicing right in front of you. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you back here next week for part 3 of our series. And enjoy your weekend, educators. Bye-bye.